Hello. Quality and building methodology. Today we are discussing about building using GTAW without consumable. Part 1. The following the factors should be considered when welding the GTAW process. Joint design. Typical groove design for open root welding is shown in figure 3. The intern means alignment 1.6 maximum is very important and adjust to contributing heavy wall pipe or weld build up grinding process than on thin wall pipe. Root opening. The root opening, the amount of the root opening is determined by the method to be used in adding filler metal. A root opening equal to or slightly smaller than filler metal wire diameter is used with keyhole technique, in which filler metal is introduced internally. A large opening is used with a continuous feed technique, in which filler metal is always the opening can be melted continuously is desired. Welder prefer or continuous method should also be able to be keyhole technique, since it is sometimes required when contraction significant decrease in root opening. In either case, the filler metal can be used as a spacer or guide determine the opening of peer to tack welding. However, it should be noted that tack shrinkage during solidification and cooling of any tack weld reduce the spacing. The amount of shrinkage was varies in the coefficient of expense or both base metal and filler metal, and which is not input. For example, stainless steel tacked weld cause more shrinkage than carbon steel weld metal under similar conditions, since it had a large coefficient of thermal expansion. Purging contaminant group should be covered with open on the outside surface of the pipe of variant the scape of the podcast. During the welding, the root part of the welder should be pill trap of the joint increment just prior to welding that increment. Junction electrode configuration. For direct current electrode negative DCEN 1% or 2% thoriated junction electrode are recommended. Better control of the arc is obtained in the electrode is trapped. However, a sharp point is undesirable because it necessarily the likelihood of a breaking of end of the tungsten electrode into molten metal. Tungsten electrode and should be tapered approximately 6 mm from the end of the point. At that point should be a slightly flattened face of the tungsten electrode should be approximately 5 mm, 4 mm, 2.4 mm or 3.2 mm size electrode. For a 1.6 size tungsten electrode, the flat face can be somewhat smaller. Open loop groove. When the arc is established, the filler metal should be introduced to the leading edge of the arc. A weld pool formed and the filler metal filled into the pool and described in the filling function. Filling function. The angular relationship between the workpiece, filler metal, and the torch shown in figure 4. Other relationships may be developed for specific situations. The method of adding filler metal depends upon the which of two following techniques is used. Arc initiation, high frequency starting is used for stick arc initiation, where high frequency is not available to be taught as a movement. Arc should always be initiated against the cube force of a striking part, not against the outside the cube. The arc should be then be moved into the joint and held stationary unit to face and to be a melt. Keyhole method. The filler metal should always be rest on the joint ahead of the lead edge of the arc. When addition filler metal required, the filler wire metal is moved move back into the lead edge of the arc and the thine is melted off. The wire filler metal melt is then reacted while the pool is moved face on the social input oscillation molten. With practice, when welder to be dug where into the pool and into the react in the wire and form the following leading edge, the arc to prevent melting, but yet remaining within the insert shielding gas to prevent oxidation of the should be end of the filler wire metal become contaminated oxidation. The end and should be the cutoff before further welding. Contamination filler metal if the preferred technique which has followed continuous feeding of the wire into the molten weld pool, the filler metal wire in between the pool in the root phase, and it is fed continuously into the weld pool. Filler metal wire in the melting are processed over the keeping the pool with the to a minimum and still acting complete technique. The amount of the root reinforcement where with the amount of the filler metal that is fed into the pool, there is no advantage to exchange metal inside the pipe. In fact, excess root reinforcement is determined and should be avoided. The sum and excess the phase reinforcement where the joint being made in the close quarter. It is also possible to feed the filler metal via the root opening in the root on the positive side of the joint for at last part of the circumference. Welding technique. Group type A and C shown in figure 5 are recommended for welding stainless steel and silicon filled steel carbon steel as an alternative. Adding filler or using consumable insert for the root path welding. When the arc been located over the joint root. Yes, it should be held stationary. You need the weld pool with the 2/3 the width of the bottom of the groove. The dot should be smoothly around the joint, holding pool with consonant. Filler metal should be adding only where root opening is greater than 0. The pool should be never be allowed to touch the groove radius. Sorry. Care should be taken to keep the tungsten electrode concentrate over the joint root. Welding pipe in the horizontal fixed position. Welding should be done the upward direction when the pipe in the 5D position and the joint is in vertical plane. Reference AWS standard welding term and definition of welding position. The normal required strain would be at the lowest joint of the protruding upward from the joint, though other starting point can be used by definite shrinkage direction. Configuration. Start and stop. As the weld progresses the pipe, it becomes the necessity of the welder to stop the irresponsible half. A boot control or a normal of a manual remote current can be used to gradually to reduce the current level of extinguish the arc. If such equipment is not available, the arc should be slowly move up the groove face and gradually increase the length until it extinguishes. Reduced arc extinguish may be proves creator crack. Proves creator crack. Thank you.